games and celebrations all month long. More at specs.com. Specs. The fun starts here.
Rick on the North Freeway still there inbound before Rankin. Crews blocking some lanes to get that out of the way. Fog advisory expiring in 30 seconds. Mid-70s for the high. Clouds are going to remain. A little bit of sun maybe. 64 for the low tonight. 90% chance you're going to see the moisture out of the sky tomorrow. Wind gusts 20 to 30 miles an hour, but that's going to bring nice day Sunday going into President's Day Monday as well. We're sitting at 62 on the beach. Surfside 66 here at U of H. Listen anywhere. We're streaming live online at HoustonPublicMedia.org on our app as well. It's KUHF Houston News 88.7. A service of the University of Houston, 9 o'clock.
The 2021 winter freeze was 5 years ago this weekend. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, Houstonians' memories of the deadly winter storm and lessons learned about the Texas energy grid.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, Mayor Whitmire lays out his vision in a State of the City speech. The Houston Texans will move their practice facility and headquarters to a new Toro district in Cypress. Ahead of Valentine's Day, the Houston Humane Society is encouraging doggy dates. We'll learn more. Plus, this week's non-expert panel weighs in on intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thanks for joining us on News 88.7. Remember to check out our live video feed on Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Stocks opened lower this morning after a better-than-expected report from the Labor Department on inflation. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average slid about 80 points in early trading.
Consumer prices in January were up 2.4% from a year ago. That's a smaller annual increase than the previous month and slightly lower inflation than forecasters were expecting. Prices rose just 0.2% between December and January. Falling gasoline prices during the month helped to offset some of the increase in rents and grocery prices. Although inflation has been cooling, prices are still climbing faster than the Federal Reserve would like. The central bank is widely expected to hold interest rates steady when policymakers meet next month. But the odds of a rate cut at the following meeting in late April have increased slightly. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Department of Homeland Security will partially shut down late tonight unless Congress can agree on a funding bill. The Senate failed yesterday to advance one. Democrats are demanding major changes to immigration enforcement. This comes after federal agents shot and killed 2 Minneapolis protesters last month. A federal judge has given an order to the Department of Homeland Security. The agency must make sure that people held at an immigration detention facility near Minneapolis have access to lawyers. From Minnesota Public Radio, Matt Sepik has more.
U.S. District Judge Nancy Brazel also says DHS must wait 72 hours before moving detainees out of the state and must inform them of their destination. Her order comes in response to a lawsuit from a human rights group. The plaintiffs allege that the department has been blocking detainees from visiting with and calling immigration attorneys.
Matt Sepik reporting. Israeli authorities have arrested several people and charged 2 of them because they're suspected of using classified information to bet on the online platform Polymarket. The action comes as there are growing concerns about insider trading showing up online in prediction market sites. NPR's Bobby Allen explains.
Israeli officials say a military reservist and a civilian have been indicted on charges of bribery and obstruction of justice. Authorities didn't reveal what the bets were exactly or how much the individuals allegedly made. Former Securities and Exchange Commissioner Joe Grunfest says the incident has likely put militaries around the world on edge.
It's a situation where people seeking to line their own pockets are willing to put at risk the militaries to whom they have pledged oaths of loyalty.
Last month, a Polymarket trader made $400,000 for predicting Venezuela leader Nicolas Maduro would be toppled. It did not trigger criminal charges. Polymarket operates an overseas exchange outside the reach of American regulators. Polymarket didn't return a request for comment. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
On Wall Street, the Dow is now down about 30 points. The Nasdaq is down about 40. You're listening to NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Columbia University. with the School of Professional Studies Dean's Fellowship Program for students across all SPS master's programs. More at sps.columbia.edu/NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Houston ISD aims to close as many as 12 schools for the upcoming school year. State-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles made the official recommendation to the board last night, citing aging infrastructure and steeper than expected enrollment declines. Miles called the decision difficult and not one he made lightly. He adds the district began seriously considering schools last spring. The board is expected to vote on the closures and consolidations at their next meeting in 2 weeks. For a full list of the schools affected, visit houstonpublicmedia.org. Congressman Christian Menifee has opened up a substantial lead over Congressman Al Green in the Democratic primary for the redrawn Texas 18th Congressional District. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider says the latest survey from the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs mirrors a poll released by the Menifee campaign earlier this week.
The survey shows 52% of likely Democratic voters in the new 18th district intend to vote for Menifee in the upcoming primary. That's compared to 28% of those who plan to support Green. Mark Jones of Rice University's Baker Institute is co-author of the survey.
I think what we have here is we have a set of voters who like Al Green, respect Al Green, but also like Christian Menifee and respect Christian Menifee. And at least in this instance, they're opting for the younger candidate or perhaps the new generation. So really, this is in many ways a changing of the guard.
The poll even shows Menifee with a 7-point lead over Green in the portions of the district that Green currently represents as congressman of the old 9th Congressional District. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
The Houston Texans are on track to move much of their operations to northwest Harris County. On Thursday, Harris County commissioners approved a deal to work with the Texans and Howard Hughes communities to develop a new entertainment district. It includes a new Harris County Community Center, new parks, and new training field and headquarters for the Texans. It's 66 degrees right now on the University of Houston campus. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Thanks for joining us here on News 88.7 and YouTube. Coming up this hour, remembering the winter freeze 5 years ago this weekend. The good, the bad, and the ugly, and just in time for Valentine's Day, a doggy date courtesy of the Houston Humane Society. First, though, Houston Mayor John Whitmire delivered his State of the City address Thursday. He laid out his vision for the rest of his term and indicated he'll run for re-election in 2027. Meantime, Houston City Council is considering a long-debated apartment inspection ordinance. To discuss the latest from City Hall, we're joined now by Houston Public Media's Dominic Anthony Walsh. Dominic, good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
What did Mayor Whitmire say Thursday about what he's achieved halfway through his term?
Well, he highlighted that his administration has reversed years of a declining police department workforce. He pointed to the $832 million deal with the police union last year. And, since then, the police force has increased from about 5,000 to about 5,400. So some significant gains there. He also pointed to the unified Martin Luther King Jr. Day parade. It was previously split into 2 events organized by different groups. He says he brought them together, something previous mayors were not able to accomplish. He also pointed to a challenge, solid waste pickup. There have been more than 83,000 complaints to the 311 Center about missed solid waste pickup over the past 12 months. He highlighted his firing of the previous solid waste director and says the administration is working to fix the issue.
The city of Houston, meantime, faces another large budget deficit. As the controller told us here on Houston Matters, that could be as much as $120 million by June. Did the mayor say anything about how the city will address that?
Well, he said there's not going to be a tax hike. Instead, he said the administration will look for efficiencies, collaboration, elimination of corruption, and conflicts. Now, the deficit was, nearly $150 million last year. He highlighted a few steps they took to address that problem, like the voluntary retirement incentive program. About 1,000 workers retired. That's projected to save $35 million a year from the $3 billion general fund. There were also multi-million-dollar cuts to most departments. Still, even after those savings, the city faces this daunting deficit this year. And like we said, Whitmire has ruled out a property tax hike. We asked him for specifics about the plan to address this deficit, and he said it's an ongoing process. Quote, "We have a solid plan and we will roll it out at the appropriate time."
What did he say about what he'd like to accomplish should he be reelected in 2027?
Yeah, he unveiled a set of aspirations, like a metro light rail connection to the George Bush Intercontinental Airport, huge pipes to channel stormwater along I-10 from the Baker Reservoir to the Houston Ship Channel, and a water taxi service on the Buffalo Bayou connecting downtown to the East End. This was the first time we heard about these proposals. He said it is not a tease, it's going to get done, but he said it might take longer than the next 6 years. When it comes to re-election, he did say, quote, "I'm prepared to give 6 years, the remaining best years of my life for Houston." He is 76 years old, rather, and if re-elected, he would be 82 years old at the end of his second term.
Meantime, City Council has been working for years now on an apartment ordinance to crack down on complexes with chronic health and safety problems. What's the latest news there?
There will be 2 community engagement meetings about this proposed apartment inspection ordinance. The first starts at 6 p.m. on Thursday, February 19th at the A-Leaf Neighborhood Center. The second, also 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 5th at the Harris County Department of Education. Councilmember Tiffany Thomas, the chair of the Housing Committee, will be leading those meetings, and she told us she expects a final vote on the rules in late April.
Why has this been considered for so long now, but never passed?
Yeah, the ordinance, when it first came to the city council for consideration in October, was delayed after the Houston Apartment Association voiced concerns over the way rental buildings would be added to a registry of high-risk rental buildings. City officials reworked it over the course of November before it came back to the council again in December. At that point, Mayor Whitmire and some council members said there wasn't enough public engagement about that new draft. They argued the input was too limited to advocacy groups. And so that public engagement, that's the next step, the final step before this long-awaited ordinance becomes potentially law in late April.
Dominic Anthony Walsh, reporter for Houston Public Media. Thank you.
Thanks.
Harris County Commissioners have unanimously approved a memorandum of understanding with the Houston Texans and Howard Hughes Holdings to develop a new 83-acre sports, retail, and entertainment district that will house the Texans' practice facilities and headquarters in Northwest Houston. The Toro District, named for the Texans' mascot, will be built in the Bridgeland community in Cypress, about 40 miles northwest of NRG Stadium. News 88.7's Michael Adkison joins us now with more on that. Hi, Michael. Michael, the Texans currently practice and are headquartered at NRG. Why move all that somewhere other than the stadium where they play?
Well, in actuality, the Houston Texans are one of something like 3 teams in the entire NFL who practice and are headquartered at the same place where they play. And that's been something that they've raised concerns about. And so that they really want to invest in, having another space. One of the main reasons is that they don't want to have to share NRG Stadium. You might think the Houston Rodeo, concerts happen at the stadium. And so really what the Houston Texans want is a place where they can practice and work and not have to worry about other groups coming in and having to take, command of the field. One of the places that was cited was the Dallas Cowboys Frisco Star in Frisco. County officials said they don't want to compare the Texans to the Cowboys, but the Star in Frisco is really just this thriving sort of bustling area in an urban center, and they really wanted to model something for the Houston Texans off of that.
Yeah, and Frisco being significantly miles away from downtown Dallas as well, as it turns out. This will be a public-private partnership between the county, the Texans, and the developer, Howard Hughes. What's the financial arrangement exactly?
Well, the big caveat here is we do not have a financial estimate. There really weren't any estimates that were put forward. And even when reporters asked county officials if they could provide even a ballpark, that was not brought forward. But we know that much of this is going to be invested by private folks who are going to be coming into this area. County leaders assured taxpayers are not going to foot the bill for the Houston Texans headquarters or practice field. But at the end of the day, a lot of this is going to come from property taxes.
What else is planned for the site? What sort of retail and entertainment do they have in mind?
Right. So some of those things that taxpayers are going to be paying for in that area are going to include things like parks, as well as investments in roads. And so those are going to come from taxpayers. And it's also going to include a Harris County Community Center. So picture, your community center that's also a voting site. It's a place where kids can have athletic stuff going on over there, as well as entertainment and classes for seniors. That entertainment center is going to be in this Toro district, as well as, like I said, the think of the Frisco Star. You've got businesses, you've got restaurants, you've got retail outlets that are all going to be in that area. Really just an investment in sort of what you picture an urban core looking like.
The Texans' lease at NRG Stadium, meantime, runs through 2032. Does this move signal anything about whether the Texans would stay there beyond that?
Craig, that's kind of the million-dollar question on the table. The county officials who spoke about this certainly said that this is a good sign for the Houston Texans being here in the long run. But at the end of the day, it's not 100% clear what their long-term plans are. Cal McNair, though, yesterday did say that this is a historic day for the Houston Texans and really said that it shows the commitment that the Texans have to Harris County. But ultimately, things could change. Obviously, this is a big investment in the Harris County community that does signal that they are here to stay, at least in the short term. But who's to say in the long term?
Houston Public Media's Michael Adkison. Thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, we recall the 2021 winter freeze 5 years later as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
This Valentine season.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And from Baylor College of Medicine, with 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care, push the frontiers of modern science.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. 5 years ago this weekend, a winter storm brought days of prolonged sub-freezing temperatures to greater Houston and the rest of Texas, weather our grid was not ready to handle. The result, massive and prolonged power outages across the state. By February 15th, 2021, more than 4.5 million homes and businesses in Texas were without power. Those rolling outages continued throughout the week. More than 200 people died due to the storm and the state's inability to keep the power on and heat with it. And the Texas Comptroller's Office estimated anywhere from $80 to $130 billion of economic activity was lost. We welcome your thoughts and memories of the 2021 freeze at 713-440-8870 or talk at houstonmatters.org. Comment as well on our live stream on Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Pedro Montemayor lives in the Denver Harbor area. He was 67 then and had just had knee surgery. This is 5 years ago this week when the power went out. His wife had left town for a funeral, so Pedro didn't leave his home for days.
Oh, it was a bad feeling, let me tell you. I mean, I didn't know how long the power was going to be off, and I was trying to call the neighbors and somebody can help me out. I had one good neighbor that she brought me water and stuff like that, food, and she was keeping me in touch with the information what was going on in the world because I had no electricity. I had to charge my phone, and I had to be very careful with that. I had blankets all over me. So I had knee surgery. I couldn't even move. And, I was so desperate to take a shower, let me tell you. I never had any problems before like that. I was so desperate. But when I got the power back, and I was able at least to, charge the phone. But the water, it took me a couple of months to get the water back because I couldn't get no plumbers to come and fix it. Finally, I have this friend of mine that went and did emergency repairs so I can have some at least cold water in the meantime. I had two different pipes there, especially the hot water pipes that was the one that busted. I think it was my fault because I covered everything else. Well, my neighbors did, but that particular pipe was inside the wall. And when she saw the water was coming out from the wall, then we had to open the wall and find out what it was inside. That's why we didn't have no insulation in there. Now I have a lot of supplies in case if I need it or my neighbors need it, they don't have to go and face that problem again. I'm prepared this time.
Denver Harbor resident Pedro Montemayor recalling the 2021 winter freeze. That week, Dr. Samuel Prater was the ER medical director at Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Texas Medical Center. He says while hospital staff prepared for disasters like hurricanes, they weren't ready for this.
We certainly did not anticipate the catastrophic power grid failure and everything that entailed. But I do remember, probably maybe it was the second night of the storm, actually having to come in the middle of the night because we were getting inundated with patients who were experiencing carbon monoxide emergencies because of just how cold it was. They lost power, and then people were using basically barbecue pits and bringing them inside their homes to try to keep themselves and their families warm. So we saw 3 times our annual volume in 72 hours. Yeah, it was just an insane amount of patients, to be honest, that were specifically there for carbon monoxide related issues. At one point, we had to scramble and find extra oxygen tanks because we had more patients than oxygen outlets in the walls. So we actually had to then get portable oxygen tanks from our disaster supply and bring them up to the emergency department because we had just patients sitting in chairs on oxygen masks. I would say the most challenging part was just, I think we all get into this business to help people, right? But I think it was sad, to be honest, right? That people were so desperate and had to turn to such desperate measures that they were bringing barbecue pits into their houses to try to warm their families, right? And it was just, we all experience a little bit of emotional trauma when we take care of patients who are, severely injured in car accidents or things like, just total accidents, things not of their own doing. And for something like this, it was kind of heartbreaking, to be honest.
Dr. Samuel Prater remembering working at Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Med Center during the 2021 winter freeze. Thanks to Houston Public Media's Natalie Weber for collecting those storm memories for us. You can check out her reporting on the 5th anniversary of the winter freeze right now at houstonpublicmedia.org. Once again, we welcome your memories of 5 years ago this weekend. Where were you? What did you experience? Let us know at 713-440-8870 or talk@houstonmatters.org. Joining us now is Beth Garza, Senior Fellow with the R Street Institute and a Texas energy industry veteran and one-time ERCOT employee. Beth, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
What went wrong with the power grid during the 2021 winter storm?
In simple terms, we didn't have enough supply to meet demand. And why was that? Well, because of the very, very extreme weather that Winter Storm Uri brought with us. That drove tremendously higher demand for electricity. As somebody who lives in Austin, but when winter storms hit, Houston is kind of the key litmus test. If it gets freezing in Houston for a significant period of time, statewide demand will be noticeably higher because of the heating demand that we see from the Houston and parts south area. So that's the short answer. We didn't have enough supply to meet demand. We can talk about what that means going forward, but that's the short answer of what happened.
How could the 2021 winter storm have been handled better in light of the fact that we didn't have enough supply to meet demand?
My personal opinion, as somebody who's been around the industry for a long time, I look to our a failure of leadership, state leadership, emergency management leadership, in terms of lack of preparation. We heard it from your first caller there that talked about now I'm prepared, and I think that the awareness of individuals and actions they can take to make sure they're prepared has certainly increased in the last 5 years. During Winter Storm Uri, I can get into the mechanics or the details of the energy markets. You probably don't want that, but there were some choices made during that week where that in the course of it, my personal reaction was, hey, we are in a state of emergency. We need to not be trying to rely on markets and market outcomes. We need a little bit more command control and more direct action. That there's some nuance to that statement that I'm happy to go into, but in the time, the choices that there are choices that could have been made that I'm not sure would have brought any more power back any sooner, but certainly could have muted some of the, as you said, billions of dollars of financial impacts that were felt from the storm.
Could you give an example or two of what you're talking about? What decisions could have been made that maybe also ought to be considered should we face a future emergency like this?
Well, and the specific decision I'm talking about was a choice by our Public Utility Commission to direct ERCOT to hold the wholesale market prices at their maximum level for a very long duration of time. And they had their reasons for doing that, and I'm not going to debate those now, but our state legislature took action shortly thereafter to limit how long prices could be at the cap before basically a circuit breaker gets implemented and they drop. As the commission was taking their action and I was in the cold and dark in my house, I had the good fortune of having internet and was able to follow along on my phone. And I screamed a not safe for public consumption word out loud and when they took their action, asking, what are you doing? This is the wrong action. Live and learn. Money was spent. Lawsuits, commercial lawsuits proliferated. And hopefully we're all wiser and better prepared going forward.
I will say most of us probably used some pretty spicy language throughout that week. Did we take the right lessons away from the storm then?
So the key actions I would refer to are first the one I just mentioned in terms of limiting the duration at which wholesale prices can be at their maximum level. That's an important concept in an electricity market such as ours. And the legislature was right to do that. The other thing the legislature did that was positive was impose requirements and with associated very high penalties for winterization of power plants and natural gas facilities. I can't speak to the natural gas side of things, but on the electricity side, in every subsequent winter event that we've had, we've seen much, much better performance by our thermal power plants. And even this last data I saw this week, which really I had been skeptical, but this data has changed my opinion somewhat, that the winterization efforts are being so successful that those power plants are able to perform at temperatures below which they were mandated or designed to perform. And we should take that as a good sign as citizens in Texas.
Does that give you enough confidence that should we face, as unlikely as it may be, a winter storm very similar in terms of intensity and duration as we saw 5 years ago, that while we may still see some outages, maybe we won't see something on the scale of what we did in 2021?
I would hope that we never see anything like Uri again in terms of the just complete lack of supply and just unpreparedness by citizens, by the population, right? And I credit you and you and your colleagues in the media for raising awareness every time it's getting cold. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared just like for hurricanes, right? You need to have some water, need to have some food, need to have a plan for, how you're going to manage things. And that's a helpful, all of those things are helpful to the extent the population is better prepared, the system is better prepared, we all should be better off.
Beth Garza is a veteran of the Texas energy industry, now a senior fellow with the R Street Institute. Beth, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Patricia Zavala is with us now. She's executive director of the Texas Energy and Climate Caucus and PowerHouse Texas, a nonprofit founded after the winter storm to advocate for energy stability and sustainability. Patricia, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
5 years ago this weekend, some state lawmakers, among others, falsely attributed the state's energy grid failure to renewables and did so rather quickly. Why was that so quickly, loudly, and wrongly floated back then?
Well, you're always going to hear people trying to blame one energy source over another, but really anybody who seriously follows the Texas grid, like Beth Garza, understands that we need all of our energy sources working together. We need renewables, weatherization, batteries. They're all play an important role. And pointing the fingers really doesn't help to keep the lights on, but real solutions do.
I'm sure for some it was about politics. For others, though, maybe was it just a lack of knowledge?
It could be a lack of knowledge. People try to use any horrific event to advance a particular agenda, but what matters most is learning lessons from this horrible tragedy. Many people still get nervous when temperatures begin to drop low into the zeros. And so it's really important that instead of pointing fingers, that we look to real solutions like large scale battery storage, home weatherization, energy efficiency, and not just point the finger.
What steps has your organization, this PowerHouse Texas, taken to try and encourage lawmakers to focus on that?
We've been really laser focused on finding the areas that bring us together and where we have common ground. We don't focus on the pointing fingers and trying to divide one another. So we focus on building consensus and really cultivating energy policy leaders. We are committed to ensuring that all Texans have affordable and abundant energy, and to prevent blackouts, to lower bills, and to really ensure that we continue to have leaders within the legislature that can help power our economy.
Do you think the grid is, in fact, hardened and ready to take on future weather emergencies, including winter freezes as they happen?
One of the major differences that we have this season versus 5 years ago is that we have around 77 times more battery storage and capability on the grid than we did 5 years ago. And so being able to have battery deployed in a dispatchable way and shave off that peak demand really helps us during those times of tight conditions. So similar to what Beth said, I really hope that we never have an experience like Winter Storm Uri again. But as more renewables come onto the grid, as more batteries come onto the grid, not only does it help to increase reliability, but it also helps to keep prices affordable. We're experiencing an affordability crisis right now, and while Texas is relatively lower in electricity costs than other places in the country, many Texans are still struggling to pay their bills. Around 40% of Texans, low to moderate income Texans, say that they struggle to pay their bills and continue to put food on the table, and many cut back to meet that.
Is there anything you'd like to see done now going forward that hasn't been to improve state policy or infrastructure surrounding everything that goes into protecting us from a future freeze like this?
I would like to see our state leadership use more with the grid that we currently have and take advantage of the existing infrastructure. There's technologies out there that can increase our transmission capacity without having to build out more infrastructure, which ends up costing us all more money. So deploying grid enhancing technologies and being able to support everyday Texans to be able to keeping their bills low is really critical.
How about specifically, one of the things we hear about is that a lot of folks may live in homes that are just a little too leaky, that there are ways to make your individual home more energy efficient that maybe you hadn't thought about.
That's absolutely accurate. There's a tremendous amount of energy waste that happens in older homes. And so we need to invest in weatherization. We need to support homeowners in being able to winterize their homes, transition to efficient heat pumps, phase out old resistance heating is really crucial. What we can do as a state to support demand response programs so that residential customers are compensated for curtailing their usage during times of peak demand is really important. There are so many demand side solutions that we can be supporting and investing in. And I think that those require more of a focus moving forward.
Patricia Zavala is the executive director of the Texas Energy and Climate Caucus and the nonprofit PowerHouse Texas. Patricia, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
And just ahead, from a retired HPD sketch artist weighing in on a high-profile kidnapping to Cy-Fair ISD restoring removed chapters from textbooks about climate change, vaccinations, cultural diversity, and more, our non-experts discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
I'm Ernie Manouse.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
University brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from Base Power. As hurricane season approaches, Base Power offers energy plans to Texans with home backup for outages and fixed energy rates. Eligibility details at basepowercompany.com/NPR.
A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Jessica Brown, co-director of Station Theater, Marco Roberts, chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum, and Ernie Manouse, co-host of Houston Public Media's Hello Houston program, heard weekdays from 11 to 1 here on News 88.7. Jessica, Marco, Ernie, welcome to Houston Matters.
Good. Happy to be here.
Panel, retired Houston Police Department sketch artist Lois Gibson this week released a sketch based on the missing persons case of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. Gibson drew from FBI-released images of a person in a ski mask believed to be at Guthrie's front door. Despite the mask, Gibson came up with and posted a picture of her sketch on her Facebook page Wednesday night. She admits guessing at the parts of the face covered, but also noted spending 43 years on the job trying to help detectives with similar photos. In fact, Gibson, who retired from HPD in 2021, holds the Guinness World Record for most successful forensic artist for helping to identify more than 750 criminals. A retired HPD sketch artist joins the conjecture over who may have kidnapped Nancy Guthrie and releases a sketch she admits includes a lot of guessing. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Jessica?
I think that the fact that there is a sketch, there are some good things about it. It kind of points everyone in a direction. There is the possibility that someone could be misidentified from that sketch, but I think that the fact that she does have such amazing experience behind her and has so many solved cases due to her assistance is incredible. The one thing that is obviously ugly and bad, and any other adjectives that you would have about this, is the fact that Ms. Guthrie is still missing and has not been found yet. So hopefully they'll be able to find some more information soon and she'll come back safely.
Good, bad, or ugly, Marco Roberts?
Well, I think it's good, but it's a little bit of a mixed bag because if she's able to do this, I mean, it would be quite a remarkable achievement, right? But also, I would think that if she is able to do it, then AI will be able to do it as well. And that means that in aiding police investigations, even a mask is not going to help you that much. But let's see, because we don't know if this is actually going to work. But I think it's a remarkable effort. I know people are concerned about, well, what if someone's misidentified? But they will rule them out very easily. So I don't see the danger there. Oh, but there is that little dark element, which is if AI is eventually able to do this, it's just going to enhance the police powers of maybe dictatorships like in communist China, where already the things that we take for granted here in terms of surveillance for normal things are used for more nefarious reasons in those countries. So there is that dark element there. But I think overall, it's if she's able to do this, I would say it's a remarkable achievement.
Okay, good, bad, or ugly, Ernie?
I think I'm falling in the bad camp here. Oh. I'm not going to go so far as ugly, but I think it's bad because I think it puts clutter out into the whatever we want to call it, the crime sphere of all of this, and can mess up what we're looking for. I think even if it has some similarities, once you put an image out there, people's minds automatically focus on that image. And now we have an idea of what we think this person could look like, and this person may look nothing like it. I was just looking at the sketch. Yes, she may have background in it, but so much is obscured, and so much is out of focus, so much isn't clear in the image.
And she even says as much.
Right. But that picture is out there, and that picture gives a very realistic look at what somebody would look like. And there's probably someone that looks very much like that picture. That has nothing to do with it. Yes, they'd be ruled out quickly, but when time is of the essence, don't clutter the sphere with that. It would be better for me if the parts that are visible, the eyes, the bit of the mouth, is all you see in her sketch and the rest was left empty. Then you can project it where it needs to be. But I think there's too much imagination in this.
Well, maybe what they should have done, or what she should have done, is just give it to the police only and see if this is going to work. And then, so I mean, I can see that point.
Yeah. We do have a tendency to push a lot of stuff out there onto the old interwebs without giving a whole lot of thought to it. And even people who have a background in a thing, sometimes you're like,
right. Now, I don't want to say anything against her skill and ability at what she does and all the success she's had in doing this. This just seems, from so much that's covered in such low-res quality images, how she can come up with this image worries me.
Well, and also, you mentioned putting it out on the internet. Even if the person is proven that they didn't do anything wrong, if they were misidentified, you still have people online who will start harassing that person. So.
Panel on Monday, the newly reconfigured Cy-Fair ISD Board of Trustees voted to restore several chapters in textbooks that were deemed controversial by the previous board and removed. As Houston Public Media's Bianca Seward reported this week, the specific lessons and topics in question includes topics like climate change, vaccinations, cultural diversity, depopulation, and humanity's impact on Earth and its ecosystems. All will be taught again in classrooms next school year. Cy-Fair ISD is the third largest public school district in Texas. Its 2024 decision to remove those lessons was pushed by a 6-1 conservative majority on its board, but 3 of those conservative incumbents were ousted in November. The reversal vote Monday was by a 4-3 margin. Lessons on climate change, vaccinations, cultural diversity, and more will be back in Cy-Fair ISD classrooms next year. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Marco?
Well, I think it's ugly, but maybe not for the reasons people may conclude from the story. There are a couple elements about the story that I think are a little off. For one thing, the idea that 3 conservatives were ousted isn't actually correct, because one of them actually didn't run again. And he stepped down apparently because he felt that the pressure and the harassing messages that he and his family were getting over the last year were just not worth staying in office. So he actually didn't run for re-election. This was all new challengers. And then the remarkable thing that happened that was really strange was that the other conservative actually ran against the third one. So she stepped down from the incumbent position that she actually held and did not run for re-election for that, but in fact challenged the remaining conservative who was running for his seat. So really there was only one conservative who was running, and he was having to fight off a fellow conservative who apparently must be really angry, because this is a very strange thing to do, right, to take on a fellow conservative. And so, of course, that split that vote. So you ended up with 3 losses across the board. But it also points out to another issue. There was a comment about what was in those things. And I think it always matters, well, what's the detail? When people always tell you, oh, look what they said, look what they did. Okay, well, can you give me the concrete facts? Like, I just need to know, because people can always exaggerate, right? Especially in this politicized atmosphere. I could not get what was in those chapters. I looked and tried, asked, nobody could tell me. And in the story, it says that they reviewed it, but actually when you hear the answers from the 3 liberals that voted to bring it back, they kind of concede that they didn't actually read it. It doesn't come across that they actually read it. So no one seems to know what's in this. I don't know what to make of it, but what it does look like is there's a lot of ugly drama. There was a lot of chaos in that district. And so I do think the lesson to everybody is, whatever is going on the ideological side, you need to make sure you run your house in order. Keep it running smooth. Don't surprise the parents. And the other fault I do find with the conservatives that did do this is, if there's one fault, it would be you didn't explain the process. I think if you are just upfront with people and say this is the decision-making process and this is how we're going to decide it, then people can understand better what the outcome is. And I don't think that happened here. So I don't know what the context of the chapters were, but the process could have been better.
Drama and chaos and a school board?
I know.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or ugly, Ernie.
It's funny. I think we agree a lot, and yet I come in on it's good. And I think we're going to have the same justification there. But also I want to stress, you did say we are non-experts, correct, at the beginning of this?
Yes.
I want to make sure everyone's well aware of that before I speak again. My thought is it's democracy as democracy should be. It's a community reacting to a situation and voting what they want to change what they want to change, and that's what it should be all about. If you're in an organization, you don't like the way it's going, and it's a democracy, you have the right to make these changes. And we saw a community change something to what they felt wasn't serving them. And that's what it's supposed to all be about on every level of this democracy. If you feel you're not being represented for the ideals you believe in, then vote them out and vote in people who support your ideals. That's how it should work. So regardless of the minutia and the details within what happened here, on the bigger picture, it's good because democracy had a good day. A community voted for something. And if the community now doesn't like this move, they'll vote again, let's hope, and put it back to what they do want. So that's good.
As former President Obama once said, don't boo, vote. Good, bad, or ugly. Jessica.
I think that I'm going to go along with Ernie with good for many of the same reasons, but also just getting more education and, having a well-rounded education is always a really good thing. These are topics that people should at least be aware of. And, if you start in the high school age, then people can start researching on their own and dig into it as they're developing their own lives, their own personalities, their own ideals. And so I think that was one of the things that I was really excited about with this, is that you're kind of seeing that put back into play. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and this was, I believe, in the article, and I hope I'm not misquoting it, again, non-expert, is that parents as individuals can opt out of specific topics. I think that it said that doesn't mean they're not necessarily, that they wouldn't be held responsible for test questions and things like that. But if they want to specifically say, hey, I don't want my child studying this, then the teachers will abide by that. And I hope that I read that correctly.
Well, I just want to make it clear, though. I mean, I do agree with you guys. It's a good thing. The voting process, that's always what's supposed to happen. Don't get mad. Vote. I agree with that 100%. But I do think it matters whether the text in questions were proselytizing or explaining. And that's I know we talked about that before in this program. And I think that sometimes we have people who are willing to make the distinction between the two sides. And so that's why I think it matters what was in those chapters, right? Was it proselytizing? In which case, then I would agree. But if I agree with you 100%, if we're just talking about these issues, then no. So, but unfortunately, we don't know.
I agree. Sure.
And of course, always the hard part is one person's explanation is another person's proselytization. So what do you do there? Finally, panel, today is Friday the 13th, the first of 3 Friday the 13th this calendar year. It's the first time in 11 years that we'll get 3 of them, the most we can have on the old Gregorian calendar in any 12-month period. And in a mathematical quirk, we won't have this many for another 11 years. This year's Fridays the 13th occur today in March and again in September. While you may be aware of triskaidekaphobia, the irrational fear of the number 13, you may be less aware that it can, in fact, lead to, oh boy, here we go, paraskivadeikatriophobia, which is really hard to pronounce and represents fear of Friday the 13th. No doubt the many slasher films in the Friday the 13th series have contributed to some folks suffering from that. I would suggest that both the paraskivadeikatriophobics and triskaidekaphobics avoid the next film in the series when it comes out, as it will be the 13th Friday the 13th movie. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a speed round now. It's Friday the 13th, and soon will be again. Good, bad, or ugly? Ernie.
Really bad for me because a friend just yesterday asked me to recommend a horror film to watch last night, and I forgot it was Friday the 13th, and I recommended Halloween. So I really missed that one. Crystal Lake. It's the new series about Friday the 13th coming out very soon. They have been working on it for a while. It is the prequel story to what happened there at Lake Camp Crystal Lake.
Interesting. Good, bad, or ugly, Jessica?
I'm just worried that you may be triggering the hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia, which is the fear of long words in some of your listeners. So
well done.
I had to write that down phonetically. Otherwise, I would not have gotten that word at all. But also, I'm very glad that you don't just have Friday the 13th, in images. So good up there so that you're not triggering the triskaidekaphobia.
Good, bad, or ugly, Marco?
Well, I'm not even going to match that, but I'm going to say that
want the phonetics,
I think it's good because I'm glad somebody's keeping track of the calendar because I certainly am not. So, so glad that somebody's paying attention.
We don't have any triskaidekaphobics
here?
No.
Nobody has any issues with the number 13?
No, number 13 is actually my favorite number, and that was long before it was Taylor Swift's.
Does it?
I have more of a fear of Taylor Swift.
Does it annoy you that there are no 13th floors in lots of buildings?
No, I actually think that's really cool. I'm also a ghost story person, so
that explains a lot.
Well, I'll tell you,
doesn't it?
When I was growing up, we used to live in a building that didn't have the 13th floor, but my mind just kept wondering, but is it the 13th floor? Because the first floor is actually considered the lower floor, and it doesn't cover the number 1, and number 1 is number 2. So is the 13th floor the 13th floor? Is it the 12th floor, or is it the 14th floor? I just never could understand.
Elevators should not require math.
Okay.
Jessica Brown is co-director of Station Theater. Marco Roberts is chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Ernie Manouse is co-host of Hello Houston, heard weekdays from 11 to 1 on News 88.7. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
And give access to the best of public TV through PBS Passport. And your donation will be doubled right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from CertaPro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at CertaPro.com.
Ahead of Valentine's Day tomorrow, we are now going to talk about dating. Well, a different kind of dating. Specifically, a doggy date, courtesy of the Houston Humane Society's Doggy Date Out program. Tyler Scott is adoption supervisor for the Houston Humane Society. He's here to tell us more. Tyler, welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I think most folks know generally that you and other chapters of the Humane Society across the country aim to protect animals through shelters and adoption and advocacy. Can you walk us through some of what the Houston Humane Society is currently doing?
Yeah, so we've actually been serving the community of Houston for a little bit over 65 years. Our most important thing is, animal welfare. We want to keep animals in homes, so we have a lot of pet resources or Pets for Life programs, to help encourage people to keep their animals in their homes. And then, of course, we're focusing on ending animal abuse, ending animal homelessness, and, providing the best shelter that we can give them in their time there. And then, of course, low-cost spay-neuter clinics or even vaccination clinics. We really like to go out into the community and really encourage people to keep animals with themselves. Yeah.
And these are all kinds of animals that you shelter, right? Yeah.
So we've got everything from, the classic dog, cats, but we also have mini mammals. So, your guinea pigs, your hamsters, your bunnies. We've got horses, pigs, goats, exotic animals. We've got a wildlife program too. So, some birds and even some lizards.
As I said, with Valentine's Day tomorrow, our attentions turn to date nights. You're offering a variation on the theme, a doggy date out. What is that?
Yeah, so our Doggy Date Out program, it's just going to be encourage people to come and give our dogs a day out of the shelter. It's a really good socialization for them. It's very good to go out and see different things, give them a little bit of relief, stress from sometimes the shelter life. And we encourage people, take them to the beach, take them to the park. Some places these never dogs have been before. Or, if you don't even want to go out, you can take them home, sit them down on the couch and just watch a movie all day. It's really helpful for them. It all seems to be small things to us, run-of-the-mill day-to-day life. But for them, it's one of the best days they've experienced.
And I guess the idea here is, ideally, somebody falls in love with the dog and adopts said dog. But even if that's not the case, this is like no commitment here, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, that you bring them back, and all is as it was before.
Exactly.
And you get a little, dog time.
Exactly.
Which everybody needs.
No. We don't want to force the animal on anybody. We of course want people to make the best decision for themselves. So sometimes if you don't have an open home, maybe for an animal in this point in time of your life, but you can give them a day. They absolutely will love that. We also get, photos and videos of these animals that help us promote them better on their adoption profiles. So we can, communicate to potential adopters about that animal's personality a little bit better.
And I know for a fact that you had one of those best case scenarios just play out, because we were talking with you ahead of time of the idea of why not bring in one of the dogs that's involved in this program. Mm-hmm. But that dog could not join us this morning because?
Yeah, so the dog that I wanted to bring onto the air this morning, so y'all would see a little bit of puppy, actually had an adopter show up yesterday and start the process, and they're going to be picked up for adoption today.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, forever home.
Yeah. So what else about not just the Doggy Date Out program, but other programs that you do? What is most fulfilling for you about those programs and that work?
Oh, gosh. I think one of our best programs that we actually provide at the shelter is our Pet Resources program. It's a wonderful program with wonderful people in it, and their most important job is going out into the community, providing food and vaccines and just information that we can provide even further for different communities across the Houston area, even some of the satellite communities. And that keeps animals into the home and stops that pet homelessness pandemic is what we have here in the Houston area. And we want owners to keep their animals. That's the most important thing.
Back to the Doggy Date Out program. If somebody is interested in getting involved, if they want a little dog time, how do they do it?
Yeah, so you can sign up. It's a real quick application on our website, houstonhumane.org. We also have information on our socials with hyperlinks for that. And it's a quick application, just, some personal information, and then what day works best for you to pick up the animal. We do this year round, but, specifically for this weekend, we have time slots for pickup. And then you take the animal in the morning. I think pickup is from 9 to 10, and then you can drop off whenever, specifically usually around 4 to 5.
Tyler Scott is Adoption Supervisor for the Houston Humane Society. Tyler, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
And that will do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. On Monday's show, we will discuss the new draft flood maps that FEMA released this week for the Houston area and their implications with Jim Blackburn from Rice University Speed Center, plus more about dogs and cats as we welcome your dog and cat care questions for veterinarian Dr. Lori Teller from the Meyerland Animal Clinic and Texas A&M University. Anything you'd like to know about the care and feeding of your canine and feline friends is welcome. Send those questions now or through the weekend to talk@houstonmatters.org or call in and ask them live on the air Monday morning. I'm Craig Cohen. Have a great weekend. Then join us Monday for those and other Houston Matters.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.